The evacuation order came through every channel at once. My wrist comm buzzed, the bar's old radio crackled, and even the dusty speaker bolted outside my door lit up with the same red warning symbol. I set down the glass I was drying and listened. Attention all sentient beings on Kelvara 9. The Galactic Survey Authority has classified this world as Class 10 Deathworld, the highest danger rating in the registry. All non-native life must evacuate within 72 hours. This is not a request. I looked at the glass in my hand, then out the window at the dunes turning gold in the afternoon light, and I kept drying it. Class 10. I had heard that phrase 100 times since I opened this bar. It was supposed to mean instant death, boiling toxins in the crust, storms that stripped flesh from bone, predators that could smell your heartbeat from a mile away. Every survey team that came through told the same stories, usually while their hands shook around one of my drinks. I had been living here for 6 years. My bar sat half buried in a dune at the edge of what the old maps called the Cinder Flats, a stretch of desert so hostile that most species wouldn't even fly over it if they could help it. I built the place out of a broken-down survey shelter, patched the roof with scrap plating, and rigged 3 solar stills to keep the water running. I painted a sign by hand and nailed it above the door. It said, "Last stop before nowhere." Traders liked the name. They liked it even more after their first drink. The door swung open and a survey authority officer walked in, still wearing his environmental suit even though he was standing indoors. His name was Corvin Adeth, and he had been assigned to oversee the evacuation of this sector. I had served him tea twice before, back when he first arrived to do his readings. He looked at me now like I had lost my mind. "You heard the order," he said. "I heard something," I said. "Sounded urgent." It was urgent. Kelvara 9 just received the highest lethality classification in Survey Authority history. Do you understand what that means? I poured him a glass of water from the still, the good cold batch, and slid it across the bar. It means the last 3 survey teams had a rough time. A rough time. He almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. Ensign Talrick's team lost 2 members to toxin exposure in under 4 hours. The mineral crust out there reacts with almost every known biochemistry. Silicate storms strip paint off hull plating, and the fauna, he stopped himself, like the word alone was enough. You cannot stay here. I've been staying here for 6 years. 6 years before the classification was updated. The authority didn't understand how dangerous this world truly was, until recently. You are in more danger than you realize. I wiped down the bar, unhurried. Outside, I could hear the last few traders loading crates onto their transport, arguing about whether they had time to grab their gear from the storage shed before the deadline. A pair of mercenaries, who usually played cards in the corner booth, walked past the window with their bags slung over their shoulders, moving fast. "You should be scared," Corvin said. "Everyone else is." I noticed. "Then why aren't you?" I thought about how to answer that honestly, without sounding like I was bragging, because I wasn't. It wasn't bravery. It was just something I had figured out slowly, the way you figure out that a stray dog everyone warns you about is actually just old and tired and wants someone to sit with it. "Come back in a few hours," I told him. "I'll explain over a drink. You've got time before your shuttle leaves, don't you?" He didn't come back in a few hours. He had ships to coordinate, evacuees to track, reports to file. But he left the tea I poured him untouched, which told me he was more rattled than he wanted to admit. I want to tell you what it's actually like out here, because the reports never get it right. The heat that melts most alien technology and blisters most alien skin within minutes feels to me like a good day at the beach. My body handles it. Humans sweat, and sweat is a strange little miracle that most species in this galaxy never evolved. It cools us from the inside out. While a Velkari trader is boiling in his suit after 10 minutes outside, I can walk from the bar to the water tanks and back without much more than a light shine on my forehead. The mineral crust that dissolves most biological tissue on contact is mildly irritating to me, like walking on hot sand with a little too much salt in it. I wear boots. That's the whole trick. Nobody ever tells the survey authority that the deadly toxin only becomes deadly if you don't wear boots, because most species that come through here don't have feet shaped anything like mine, and their boots don't seal the same way. The silicate storms are the scariest part, I'll admit that, They roll in fast, turn the sky the color of rust, and fling grit hard enough to scratch hull plating. But my shelter has thick walls, thicker shutters, and I learned years ago to seal up early and just wait it out. I've ridden out 4 of the big ones sitting in a chair with a drink in my hand, listening to the wind scream outside like an angry customer who'll calm down eventually. And the fauna. That's the part that really gets people. Kelvara 9 has predators that hunt using thermal vision, tracking prey by the heat their bodies give off. Most species here run hot and steady, an easy signal to lock onto, especially when they're panicking and their bodies spike with fear. Human bodies do something different. We regulate. We cool down when we're calm. Our thermal signature shifts and blurs in ways that, according to one bored xenobiologist who used to drink here, reads like static to those hunting eyes. I'm not saying the predators can't find me. I'm saying I've never once made it easy for them, because I've never once let myself panic long enough to light up like a beacon. None of this makes me special. It's not a power. It's just biology, dumb luck, and 6 years of paying attention instead of running. The night the storm rolled in was the same night the deadline passed. I watched the last transport ships lift off through my window, engines glowing against a sky that had already started turning that warning shade of orange-brown. I finished sealing the shutters, checked the water stills, and poured myself a drink. Then I sat down in my usual chair and waited. The wind hit first, a low moan that grew into a roar. Grit rattled against the shutters like impatient knocking. The whole shelter groaned and settled, the way it always did, and I took a sip of my drink and let the sound wash over me. I won't pretend it isn't intense. It is, but intense isn't the same as deadly, not for me. I've learned the difference the hard way, through years of small, boring moments, where I simply didn't die when everyone expected me to. About an hour into the worst of it, something slammed against the outer wall. I sat up straight. That wasn't wind. I heard it again, a heavy scrape against the plating, low and searching. One of the desert hunters, probably driven half-mad by the storm, pushed out of its usual hunting ground and looking for anything warm to lock onto. I turned down the lantern by my chair, letting the room go dim and cool, and I sat very still. My body did what it always does when I stop reacting with fear. It settled. My heart slowed, my skin cooled. Whatever thermal picture I was giving off blurred into something the creature outside couldn't quite read. The scraping moved along the wall, paused near the door, then moved on. A few minutes later I heard it again, farther off, chasing some other signature out in the storm. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding, and finished my drink. By morning, the wind had died down to a whisper. I opened the shutters to a sky washed clean in gold, dunes reshaped overnight into new soft curves, like the planet had simply stretched and settled back into place. I stepped outside, boots crunching on the crust, and breathed in air that would have dropped most of the galaxy to its knees. That's when I saw the shuttle. It was Corvin's, or what was left of the graceful lines it once had. It had come down hard about half a mile from the bar, one wing dug into the sand, hull scorched from a rough ride through the storm. I jogged over, more out of habit than worry, and found him climbing out of the hatch, coughing from the smoke still curling from a damaged vent. "You're alive," he said, staring at me like I was something out of a report he didn't believe. "So are you," I said, barely, by the look of that landing. He looked past me at the bar, still standing, sign still nailed above the door, and then back at me, and something in his face changed. Not just relief, recalculation. "The storm caught us on our second evacuation pass," he said. "We were pulling stragglers off the outer camps. We should have made it out in time." "But you didn't." "No." He rubbed a hand over his face, leaving a streak of soot. "We didn't." I helped him salvage what he could from the shuttle, and by the time the sun was high, we were sitting inside the bar, him wrapped in a thermal blanket, me pouring 2 drinks instead of 1. He kept glancing around the shelter, like he expected the walls to be lying to him, like the whole planet had to be lying to him, because none of this matched what the reports said. "I need to understand something," he said finally. "The classification. Class 10. It's not wrong, is it? People really do die out here." "People really do," I said. "Just not people like me." He was quiet for a while, turning that over. The authority is going to want a full account of this, he said. Your survival. The storm. All of it. Tell them whatever you want, I said, sliding his glass a little closer. Just don't tell them to stop sending customers. Business gets lonely out here. He almost smiled at that, the first real one I'd seen from him. Outside, the twin suns climbed higher, over dunes that had nearly ended his life twice, and had never once threatened mine, and I refilled his glass, and we sat there together, while the desert settled back into its long, quiet, deadly calm, the kind that had never once, not for one single day, been deadly to me.